of cutting up cadavers, but when you actually get in here, there's no art to it.
Well, I'd say it was beautiful, but I usually associate beauty with some sort of romance, and there was absolutely nothing romantic about it at all, either in its purpose or in its just color or anything. But it was beautiful in the sense that there was just an absolute amazing order to everything.
I have a hard time envisioning my body laying out on one of these stainless steel tables, but the thought doesn't bother me.
If they realize what went on to them once they were in here, even though they're dead and they know that they're going to be dissected upon, if they knew how they were going to be dissected upon, I think they would think twice.
I don't think they really want to know, is my personal feeling. I think they have sort of a sense. They've seen a movie, they've seen something on television that has given them an idea of what an anatomy lab looks like. They have a bit of a feeling of what's going to happen to them.
I'm not sure what the process is, what the anatomy process is, how they go about it, what they do. The only reason I would care is because it would be a matter of interest. I would like to know.
I don't think anybody wants to be told that their body is going to be, the skin is going to be taken off, muscles are going to be exposed, and that sort of thing.
The most amazing image I have of having gone through this was one of the members of our group standing over the body. It's already fairly well dissected. And he's standing over it with a saw, a big saw that you would cut a tree with, And he's got one of these boxes that he's got a foot on, so he's like putting his whole body into it, and he's got a hand on the metal case. And he's going like this through this thick bone.
We were sawing the body in half the other day, and I realized, like, whoa, there's no way I could have done it. I told it as soon as you do it, because there's no way I could have done it.
I couldn't do it either. I mean, one, I'm not strong enough, and two, I couldn't saw anything in half. That's just,
Because if you really stop and really think about what you're doing, that's what I do. I'll really stop and think, what am I doing right now, instead of just sawing, and you really think you're sawing a human in half.
There were thoughts that, man, what if you were doing this to a living human? You would be causing extreme pain,
Why is Uzoma's team afraid to take the saw out and cut that spinal column? They are afraid because they think that in some way they'll be harming that cadaver, or that the person who gave that body, or the spirit of that, and they'll feel guilty about that, and it'll cause pain. That's real. It's not necessarily true, but it's real.
There's no question. The first thing I would say is, I'm sorry for doing this to you.
I don't care what happens to the body. It's no longer viable. If you threw it out in the street like roadkill, I wouldn't care.
I think there's a little respect that's lost just from being around the cadaver long enough. You tend to take liberties with it that you wouldn't have initially.
When things were odd, or just too difficult for just us to swallow and be mature about it, we cut out.
Laughter doesn't preclude respect. Laughter should be a part of it.
If I heard laughter in the lab, first thing would come to my mind, somebody's not respecting the body.
I don't know about respecting the cadavers. That's become a tool.
Maybe they're just trying to cope with something that they're not used to, which is death.
A tool for learning, a tool for experience, a tool to help expose them to dealing with life and death.
If we were learning how to fix cars, would we take a sledgehammer to a car and dismantle it in order to learn out how the engine works? I mean, I don't know if this is necessarily the best method. That's what I feel like we're doing sometimes, especially when they bring out the hammer and saws.
It's what I've always called whispering water. And I've been all over the world and never heard it like this. a soft, soothing sound like a mother's lullaby. It tends to calm the nerves and quieten the pressures of the day. To come out here, it was like visiting an old friend that you're very comfortable with. You can relax and enjoy and not feel stressed, strained, put upon, used, abused. Just you and the water and the night sky and a ship going by occasionally to let you know that you're not completely alone in the world.
I'm the director of the Will Body program here at the medical branch in Galveston. My responsibilities are to oversee the staffing and the operations of the acquisition, use, and disposition of cadavers.
I'm the coordinator, and I take care of all the paperwork. When people call in and request will forms, I mail it to them. I send out the thank you notices to them, indicating we have received their will form.
Then when that person does pass away, there are phone numbers that they can use to call our institution, and then we make the arrangements to get the body to Galveston. Once the body's in Galveston, it is embalmed and stored until it's used for undergraduate medical education or graduate medical education. When we've completed the use of the bodies are cremated.
Once the bodies have been cremated and the cremation is gathered, those that are going to be scattered are put into a 55-gallon drum.
There's rumors floating around. I don't know how true they are. I hear that they cremate them and then they dump them out at sea. What actually happens, I don't know.
Once a year, we have a burial at sea. And I read a scripture out of the Bible, and once we're finished, I toss flowers out. It's very heartwarming because it reminds me of like having a funeral. I mean, it's very sacred.
Personally, I don't feel it's necessary, but perhaps these other people that are involved do feel like it's necessary for a type of closure. I don't know.
A lot of the people are really impressed by that.
I don't feel a need for closure. Now, I consider it pleasant to go back into the ocean from whence I came, and I don't have any problem with that. In fact, it's nice. But I don't require it. I don't feel like I require it.
Bob Harvey is a badass and a pretty boy, all rolled up into one. The persona is, I'm self-sufficient. I don't need anybody. I can take or leave you or anybody else.
I was born a romantic, have spent the rest of my life trying to become a realist without becoming a cynic. I think I've made it, but I'm not sure.
I think he's still a romantic. He remembers his first date and the gardenia he bought for it. Bob is giving to us. It's a huge gift.
I'm grateful for this experience. Maybe I was pained a little, I maybe died a little bit, but I think our body came to life a little bit too.
This is about becoming more alive and more vital and more human and more compassionate by going into our relationship with death and our relationship with the dead. And not putting up with our first reaction, which is, I don't want to go there. You got to go there because it's who we are. And it can make a huge difference to the extent that you can generate the inner strength to explore these issues for yourself in your ability to live fully, to live compassionately.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall lack nothing. He maketh me lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the water.
My mother told me that if I died before she did, she was going to have me cremated. Then she was going to put me in an hourglass, and every time she went by it, she's going to turn me over and work my butt throughout eternity. So that's the way I feel about it.
And when the notebooks are filled, you will know all about this cadaver that the medical profession requires you to know.